Okay, so Domonique, let's be specific, because Lamar Jackson put up numbers last year that were historic, and he was a unanimous MVP. What becomes better? What does he do that he becomes a better player than he was?
Yeah, I think it's absurd if you think that he's going to be better statistically, but that doesn't mean he won't be a better player. I think there are situations where he can become a better passer outside the numbers, intermediate routes. He was a pretty good deep ball thrower, but I think he can improve in that area also. So there's a lot of room that he can improve, but I don't think it's going to take away from what makes him special and what makes him an all-time great, and that's his running ability. So I expect him to have a great year and maybe even a more impressive year than last year, but not statistically, just in his growth, his ability to manage the offense, and maybe they'll give him a little bit more room to make decisions at the line of scrimmage and become a more developed quarterback. Year 3 is probably a good time to start doing something like that with him, and I think that's going to make this team even more dangerous, particularly in the playoffs when things get a little bit more intense and more difficult for quarterbacks.
Yeah, Lewis, pick up on that thought there. What would you like to see Lamar Jackson, again, he's 23 years old. What would you like to see him be getting better at?
I think from within the pocket, Greeny, his ability to push the ball down the field outside the numbers in particular. Look, we know that he can throw the ball in the middle of the field, but defenses are going to start packing the area 10, 15 yards between the numbers and force him to throw the ball outside the numbers and see if they see if they can keep him in the pocket and then force him to throw the ball outside the numbers. He was 27th in the NFL in terms of yards per attempt outside the numbers at 6.5 yards per attempt. And John Harbaugh has already referenced the fact that, look, we would just like him to take more shots down the field outside to really threaten the entire length and width of the football field. Now, that is going to have to come with play calling, and it's going to have to come with Lamar being willing to actually do so, and his wide receivers are going to have to be willing to and able to go up and win some of these 50-50 ball situations. But if he can do that, if you can keep him in the pocket and make him try to beat you outside the numbers from the pocket, and he has an answer for it, as Steve Young said, as far as how his career progressed, then what are they going to do with you from a defensive perspective? Because I can beat you with my legs. I can beat you throwing the ball in the middle of the field. I can definitely beat you if I get outside the pocket. Now you're saying you're going to keep me in the pocket and force me to throw the ball outside the numbers down the field, and I can beat you that way? That's how you stamp your ticket to the Hall of Fame. Simple as that.
Schefter, what do you hear from people around the league about Lamar Jackson, whatever skepticism still exists out there and the expectations?
Well, listen, you saw the comments there from Mark Ingram, where he says he's a million times ahead of where he was last year. And I think that's the feeling within the team, that he's worked on connecting on some of those deep balls that Lewis is referring to. He's worked on his timing with guys like Marquise Brown, and he could be even more dangerous in that facet of the game. But to go back to Dominique's point, it's hard to be better than he was last year statistically. His numbers were through the roof. He won MVP. You don't often see a player put together a year like that back-to-back. Just go back 1 year before to when Patrick Mahomes put up through-the-roof numbers, and then last year he was injured, didn't have quite the same numbers. They still won a Super Bowl, but his numbers weren't the same. And so Lamar Jackson wants to go further in the postseason this year than he did last season. They can't figure out the loss to the Titans. That has stayed with them all through the offseason. And I think that's where ultimately he's going to most be measured by how far he takes this team, not the numbers he produces.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.